All right, well, welcome back, everybody. Still not going to get into the code just yet. This should probably be the final video I'll make before I actually start building this pizza shop app. But right now, I'm just going to give you a rundown of what exactly we're going to be building. Namely, all the pieces of the puzzle because, I've talked about how to make a user interface. I've talked about coding standards. I've talked about requirements. But there's probably still a little bit of a confusion that you may have, especially if you're just starting at ground level and don't really have any idea as to software engineering besides maybe what you've seen in my videos. So I'm just going to give you a rundown of actually what we'll be setting up and creating for this pizza shop app. So the first thing you want to think of is the client side. And as you go on in computer science or software engineering, you probably hear of things like client and server, client side, server side. Um, server side is basically a computer that does computation, and client side is kind of the application that a customer is running. So right now, just think of this as what the customer is going to be using on their end. So, this is a pizza shop app. They're creating an order for pizza, and they're going to be sending it to the pizza shop so that they can make the pizza and either deliver or have the pizza ready to be picked up. And so when you create the order, the application is going to be generating data that's going to be ultimately resting in a database that we set up. And the next part that we're going to be creating is the user interface or user experience, whichever you want to call it. And again, this is just kind of what the user sees and interacts with. This is going to be an Android application, so it's going to be set up for smartphones. But you could take these principles and just apply them to whatever you're doing. And the next thing is the code. Database and user interface, those are necessary and good to have, but without any code to interact and talk between the two, you just got something useless, really. So the code is really what's going to make the whole thing come alive and actually get the work done. Next thing we want to talk about is the pizza shop side. And this really goes back into requirements. Um, initially, when you think of a pizza shop app, you might just be thinking of something that the customer's using and that's it. Well, what happens when the customer is done on their part? That data for the order goes into the database, but then what happens from there? If it just sits in a database, it's useless to everybody. It's got to be used by someone or something. So this is for the pizza shop side of things. We're going to have the data from the orders. That's something we'll be, putting together and reading from the database. We'll be putting together a user interface that employees in a restaurant or a business owner or someone might be able to use to see what orders are coming in and what pizzas need to be made, stuff like that. And just like the client side, you need code to put all this together and bring it to life. For the pizza shop side, I don't think I'll probably be designing it for smartphones, but maybe something like a tablet or something, that might be like, I don't know, mounted on the wall that they can just kind of flip through and see orders from the kitchen easily. But those are the parts that we're going to be putting together. So we have our smartphone here. And again, this is just to illustrate what's going on. Smartphone's putting together the data from the order. The order data is going to go into our database. And if you stay in the software engineering or programming space long enough, you'll probably see pictures like this in occasional places. And when you see a symbol like this, you should probably be thinking of a database. Now, I know this is just a beautiful picture of a smartphone, and this was readily available at first sight, what it was. But this is just a symbol for a database. So we have our client, customer, they're making our orders, which generate data, and the data is going to go into the database. And now for the pizza shop side, we've got our database that holds data, and the data is going to be put into an app for probably people in the kitchen or the managers or something, so that they can quickly see the different orders that have popped in. And since I've made this image, I'm not quite sure the final UI will be reminiscent of this, but this is just a way, I was initially thinking that the orders might be laid out that could quickly be sorted through. Like each of these is an order, and you click one and or tap it really, since this would be a tablet, and then the order information would come up. But those are the parts that we're going to be putting together on this, and any sufficiently complex or large application will probably have similar parts. You'll have the client side, which is what the customer is using, and that's going to be generating data that's going to be sent to a database, and that database will be read by something, whether the customer again later or a server for computation or different things like that. But just a little bit, a little bit more terms for it. Client side is the customer, server side is just the computer within the business that is handling things. But this is these are the parts that we're going to be making, and just like this pizza shop side was not, maybe readily thought of. This is a hidden requirement in the long run that you just want to be wary of, and make sure you get this written down and known before you actually get into the project. Because if we had just created the client side app, well, ultimately this would have been useless. So with all this, you should have a little bit more knowledge in your tool belt to work with as you create your own app. And you'll have an idea of what I'll be creating through the rest of this series.